So this is a disaster for the Indiana Fever. Like, this is an actual disaster. The Indiana Fever are coming up against in a game where, I'm going to be real, they cannot lose. You cannot go 0-2 versus the Mystics. You just can't. You cannot lose twice to the Washington Mystics. The Mystics are terrible. They are absolutely terrible. They got destroyed by the Atlanta Dream.
The Indiana Fever are spiraling into an absolute disaster, and the pressure has finally reached a breaking point. Imagine coming face to face with the Washington Mystics in a game you literally cannot afford to lose, yet everything is falling apart behind the scenes. You cannot go 0-2 against a team that has been called absolutely terrible, but that is the nightmare reality staring CaitlinClark and her squad in the face right now. This isn't just a mid-season slump. It is a full-blown organizational crisis that threatens to derail the most anticipated rookie season in history.
To the Washington Mystics. The Mystics are terrible. They are absolutely terrible. They got destroyed by the Atlanta Dream. And the thing is, if you lose this game, the Mystics leapfrog you in the standings. CaitlinClark is going to play this game. Aliyah is now questionable. So Aliyah's injury is serious. Like, Aliyah's... There's no... Like, it has been 4 months. It's been nearly 4 months since Aliyah Boston's injury. And she still...
At the center of this chaos is the shocking revelation regarding Aliyah Boston's physical health. We are now hearing that her injury is far more serious than the team has been willing to admit publicly. It has been nearly 4 months since the initial incident, and she is still clearly not right on the court. The word is out that she is dealing with a meniscus injury that has completely sapped her of her usual dominance. It is a heartbreaking situation for an all-star who is trying to carry the weight of a franchise on one good leg, while everyone watches her struggle.
It's been nearly 4 months since Aliyah Boston's injury. And she still is not right. I don't know the extent of it, but shout out Scott Agnes, the only person that let us know that it was a meniscus injury. She has a meniscus injury. My assumption is the reason she hasn't signed with Project B, because Candace Parker's heavily involved in that, is because of her knee. My expectation is that she thinks they can win a title. She's going to play out the year. And then at the end...
The visual evidence of this decline was painful to watch in their last outing. Aliyah Boston, a player known for her precision and strength, had a complete stinker of a game where she couldn't even finish basic layups. Some analysts are even comparing her recent struggles at the rim to the inefficient shooting we have seen from Angel Reese. When your cornerstone post player is missing point-blank shots, you know something is fundamentally wrong. She had her knee strapped up tightly just to get back on the floor because the team knew they had zero chance of winning without her presence.
He thinks they can win a title. He's going to play out the year. And then at the end of the year, she's going to go get surgery. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. And the thing is now that Aliyah Boston, clearly when she came back on the floor yesterday, was not right. Aliyah Boston comes back on the floor and can't even make a layup. And she had her knee like strapped up that she needed to go back in because they weren't winning without her, and they sure as hell did not win that game with her yesterday. But again, Aliyah Boston having a complete stinker, like looking like Angel.
There is a growing theory that Aliyah is simply trying to gut out the rest of the year before undergoing major surgery. The expectation is that she knows her season is compromised, but she is refusing to abandon CaitlinClark and the rest of the roster during this high-profile campaign. However, this decision might be backfiring, as she looks like a shell of herself. Playing on a torn meniscus for months is a recipe for a long-term decline, and it raises massive questions about why the medical staff is allowing her to continue if she can't even perform basic basketball movements.
and she had her knee like strapped up that she needed to go back in because they weren't winning without her, and they sure as hell did not win that game with her yesterday. But again, Aliyah Boston having a complete stinker, like looking like Angel Reese on layups, is a rarity. That doesn't happen that often. So you give Aliyah Boston the benefit of the doubt when it comes down to it. You give Aliyah Boston the benefit of the doubt because she normally is pretty good down the stretch of games. But yeah, if she can make layups, they win this game. They win that game yesterday.
This brings us to the most infuriating part of the entire season, the absolute failure of the Indiana Fever front office. They knew Aliyah Boston was injured all the way back in February. She even missed time with Team USA because she wasn't healthy enough to compete. Despite having months of lead time, the management team failed to sign a legitimate backup center. They walked into a season with a generational talent like CaitlinClark, but forgot to provide the necessary insurance for their only reliable post player. It is a level of incompetence that is hard to put into words.
Happening on the floor because they chose to be out there. But, big but, I don't think the Indiana Fever win this game without Aliyah Boston. I think Aliyah is too important. I think Aliyah Boston is way too important for this team. And yeah, we're now looking at it where, like, I just feel like the Fever just don't have the backups, they don't have the firepower. Like the
draft day decisions are now being looked at under a microscope, and the results are damning. Why did the Fever draft Robin Johnson when they desperately needed size in the paint? They had the opportunity to bring in players like Medina or Neuer, who could have provided much-needed relief for a hobbled Boston. Instead, they loaded up on guards and left the center position completely exposed. It is a scouting failure that has left the roster fundamentally unbalanced, forcing an injured star to play heavy minutes she simply cannot handle right now.
Like, she was hurt. She was hurt in February. She didn't play for Team USA because she was injured in February. Why did you not come in with a backup center? Why is your backup center Maisha Allen? Like, why did you not draft Medina Okot? I like Raven Johnson, but why did you not draft Okot? Why did you not draft Medina Okot? Like, that is a real question. If you knew that your only center was hurt, why did you not draft Medina Okot?
To make matters worse, the team chose to give valuable roster spots to players like Story Walker-Ambra instead of hunting for an athletic big who could protect the rim. They had the entire world to look for talent, including the European leagues where size is abundant. They could have scouted the amateur ranks or looked at what players like Jess Shepard were doing overseas. Instead, they sat on their hands and hoped that Aliyah's knee would magically heal itself. Now, the team is paying the price for that lack of vision and urgency during the off-season.
I don't even know what way we can talk about this. I don't even know how we're like, how exactly we can hope this team wins. Like, I'm in shock. Like, they don't have a backup. There's no real backup for Aliyah Boston, which is why I think a lot of people predicted her to win MVP, because there was no backup. It was just her and her. It was her alone. But yeah, I feel like all around this is one of those things where
the internal scouting reports on their current backups are even more depressing. Mo Billings, who was brought in to help, has been struggling significantly compared to the competition. In recent overseas play, she was reportedly dominated by a 19-year-old prospect named Ava Pham. When your veteran backup is getting cooked by a teenager, you have a massive talent gap that cannot be ignored. This lack of depth means that the Fever have no one to throw at the elite size of the teams they are about to face in this critical stretch of the season. Looking ahead, the schedule offers no mercy for this struggling Indiana squad. They are about to run into a gauntlet of teams that possess massive bodies like Lauren Betts, Kiki Iriafen, and Shakira Austin. These are players who will exploit every single weakness in the Fever's interior defense. Without a healthy Aliyah Boston to anchor the paint, the Fever are going to get bullied and bruised. They simply don't have the physical tools to match up against the size and length that the rest of the league is now throwing at them every single night. The frustration is boiling over because the Fever don't seem to have a plan B. When you look at the point guard position, players like Sydney Colson are available as backups for CaitlinClark. You can find guards almost anywhere, but there is no equivalent to a high-level center just sitting on the waiver wire. The best you can find right now is someone like Kalani Brown, and even that wouldn't solve the systemic issues this team is facing. They are trapped in a roster of their own making, and the walls are closing in as the losses pile up. What makes this situation even more tragic is that there isn't a single CaitlinClark fan who thinks the team should actually rest Aliyah Boston. The fans are terrified because they know that without Aliyah, the team completely collapses. You could rest Kelsey Mitchell and maybe survive, but if you take Boston off the floor, the interior defense becomes a revolving door. This puts Aliyah in a secondary prison, where she feels forced to play through agony because the alternative is a total team embarrassment on national television every week. The standard of excellence that a coach like Stephanie White expects is nowhere to be found in this Indiana organization right now. When you have a generational point guard like Clark, the goal should be to build a championship-caliber infrastructure around her immediately. Instead, the Fever have built a house of cards. The lack of accountability for these roster failures is shocking. Every time Aliyah misses a layup or gets beat down the floor, it's a direct reflection of a front office that failed to do its job during the most important off-season in the franchise's history. The upcoming game against the Washington Mystics is the ultimate litmus test for this broken team. If the Fever lose this game, the Mystics will actually leapfrog them in the standings. Think about how humiliating that is for a team that was supposed to be the story of the year. Losing twice to a team that was recently destroyed by the Atlanta Dream would be the final nail in the coffin for any remaining optimism. It is a must-win game where the pressure is so high, it might actually break the players before they even step onto the hardwood. CaitlinClark is doing everything she can to keep this team afloat, but even a player of her caliber cannot overcome a total lack of interior support. She needs a pick-and-roll partner who can actually roll and finish with authority. When Aliyah is compromised, it closes down the lanes for Caitlin and makes the entire offense predictable and easy to guard. The synergy that was supposed to define this duo is being smothered by a meniscus tear and a lack of foresight from the people in charge of the roster construction. We have to be real about the criticism, though. If Aliyah Boston is going to be on the floor, she is going to be judged by what she produces. We can look back in retrospect and say she was injured, but in the heat of the moment, fans and analysts only see the missed shots and the slow defensive rotations. It is a cruel reality of professional sports. She chose to be out there, and that means she bears the brunt of the backlash, even if the root cause of her failure is a medical issue that should have been addressed months ago. The decision to skip the Team USA commitments in February should have been the loudest alarm bell in Indiana. That was the moment the front office should have been on the phone with every agent in the world looking for a backup center. They had months to prepare for this exact scenario. Instead, they acted like everything was fine, and now they are watching their season go up in flames. It is a level of negligence that would get most general managers fired in any other professional sports league in the country. Even the small wins aren't enough to mask the smell of a failing season. While players like Georgia Amoore might provide some excitement, they don't solve the fundamental problem of size. The Fever are consistently outsized and outmuscled in the paint. They don't have the length on the wings or the bulk in the middle to compete with the elite teams. Every game feels like an uphill battle where they have to shoot 50% from three just to stay competitive, which is simply not a sustainable way to win basketball games. The comparison to other rebuilding teams is equally staggering. While other franchises are finding young, athletic bigs who can grow with their guards, the Fever are stuck with a rotation that feels like it belongs in a different era. They didn't hunt for the next great rim protector, and they didn't take risks on international prospects who could have provided a spark. They played it safe, and now they are stuck in no man's land with an injured star and a rookie sensation who is visibly frustrated with the lack of help. The physical toll on Aliyah is becoming more obvious with every passing minute of game time. You can see the hesitation in her movements and the way she tries to protect that knee when she lands. This isn't just about winning games anymore. It's about the career longevity of a foundational player. If she continues to play through this without proper support, the Fever might be risking her entire future for a season that is already slipping through their fingers. It is a dangerous game that the organization is playing with their most valuable assets. As we look at the standings, the reality is starting to set in for the fans in Indiana. This was supposed to be the year the Fever returned to relevance and became a powerhouse in the WNBA. Instead, they are fighting just to keep their heads above water against the bottom feeders of the league. The excitement of the CaitlinClark era is being overshadowed by the incompetence of a front office that wasn't ready for the spotlight. It is a cautionary tale of what happens when you have the talent but lack the structure to support it. There is no area equivalent at the center position who can just come in and save the day. The market for bigs is incredibly thin, and the Fever have zero leverage to make a move. They are essentially stuck with what they have, praying that Aliyah's knee holds up and that Caitlin can perform a miracle every night. It is a strategy based on hope rather than sound basketball logic. And as we have seen so far this season, hope is not a very effective defense against the giants of this league. The disaster is here and there is no easy way out. Whether it's the lack of scouting, the failed draft picks, or the mismanagement of Aliyah's health, the Indiana Fever are at a crossroads. They are wasting a year of CaitlinClark's prime rookie development by surrounding her with a roster that wasn't built to compete. The frustration from the fans is justified and the criticism from the media is only going to get louder as the failures continue to mount. This season is officially on life support and nobody seems to have the cure. Ultimately, the Indiana Fever must decide what kind of franchise they want to be. Are they going to continue to prioritize short-term optics over long-term health and roster balance? Or are they finally going to hold the decision-makers accountable for this shocking collapse? The talent of CaitlinClark and Aliyah Boston deserves better than a front office that leaves them stranded without a backup plan. If things don't change fast, this season won't just be a failure. It will be a permanent stain on the history of the franchise and a missed opportunity of epic proportions.